countries, Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua, with Russia relationships. Why this region matters, with all of its rich resources and rare earth elements. You've got the lithium triangle, which is needed for technology today. 60% of the world's lithium is in the lithium triangle: Argentina, Bolivia, Chile. We just have the largest oil reserves, light sweet crude, discovered off of Guyana over a year ago. You have Venezuela's resources as well, with oil, copper, gold. We have the Amazon, lungs of the world. We have 31% of the world's fresh water in this region, too. I mean, it's just off the charts. We have a lot to do. This region matters. It has a lot to do with national security, and we need to step up our game.
Now, before markets even open tomorrow, let's talk completely honesty. Life is a lot harder. Rent is much higher. Food costs way more. Insurance keeps going up again and again. And jobs, they all feel way less secure. Not because people are lazy. That's never been the case. Not because people don't work hard. People in America, in Europe, in Britain, all over the world, we all work incredibly hard, and even harder. It's not because of that. It's because the system has been squeezing them. And while that squeeze is happening, Venezuela has just been effectively invaded and captured. Regime control, regime change, access. And already, before the opening bell tomorrow, you can sense what's about to happen. No, markets are not going to panic. Leaders won't explain, and regular people will be told this has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with them. And that's why you should definitely pay attention. So let me ask this carefully, not emotionally, not conspiratorially, just mechanically. Why does this invasion happen now? Why Venezuela specifically? Why does it line up so cleanly, so purely, so beautifully with inflation pressures, energy stresses, and AI demand? Why do CPI numbers look better while people all around the world feel worse, their incomes are shrinking, and their wages are not growing? And why does every foreign policy decision seem to help asset prices but not wages? Now, I could be wrong, but history says these questions are never asked until the strategy actually succeeds. So let's actually ground this in some history. In 1953, Iran's government was overthrown, threatening oil nationalization. In 1973, energy shocks reshaped global inflation for an entire decade. And in Iraq, oil was never the official reason, but it always mattered. Regime change is rarely about ideology. It's always about control of inputs. Venezuela isn't just unstable, it holds something very, very critical to the world: the largest proven oil reserves on the planet. Massive, and I mean huge, deposits of rare earth minerals and a strategic positioning in the Western Hemisphere. These are all very important elements in the battle of the world. And it's not just a coincidence. That is what we call in the business leverage. Leaders love to say inflation is all about demand. Too much spending, too many wages, too many people buying the same things. But history shows something different. History shows inflation is usually always about the inputs: your energy, your fuel, the materials that you need to use. These are the true inputs towards inflation. And in the 1970s, inflation didn't explode because people earned too much. No, it exploded for a different reason: because oil became way more scarce. If you control energy, you actually control inflation. Now, that's not ideology, it's just cold, hard arithmetic. So why does this hit CPI, but it doesn't get reflected in the cost of things in our real world? Because the CPI might actually cool, but CPI doesn't measure stress in the system. CPI doesn't measure how much it costs you in an increase in your normal grocery shop. And CPI definitely doesn't increase or reflect your rent anxiety or your cost of living anxiety, nor does it represent your insurance shocks or anything else like that going forward, let alone your job insecurity. And when energy prices stabilize or are artificially managed, CPI improves. But the cost doesn't actually ever disappear, does it? It just shifts. And who do you think absorbs it? Well, it's not the tech executives, it's not your local politician, it's not the banker, it's not the local government. No, it's always and everywhere the consumer. Consumers are always the people who absorb the hit, always, without any kind of equivocation or any other change in all of history. But AI seems to have changed the game completely with the arithmetic. And this is strangely the part that no one is actually talking about. AI isn't just software, it's energy-hungry infrastructure. I'm talking data centers, compute clusters, semiconductor fabrications. AI demand is exploding electricity usage faster than the renewables can actually scale. You know, the winds, the hydroelectricity powers. So ask yourself one pivotal, vital question. Where does that energy actually come from? If it can't be done by wind, if it can't be done by solar, it has to come from somewhere else. It has to come from the good old boys, the oils, the gases, the rare earths, the critical minerals. All of these things are abundant somewhere. Yep, that's right. Venezuela isn't yesterday's oil story. It's tomorrow's AI energy reserve. And leaders all around the world definitely know this, because tech elites need cheap energy more than you need cheap groceries. Tech elites talk about innovation, but innovation runs on one thing: power. In the second industrial revolution, steel and coal decided the winners. But in this digital age, energy and rare earths decide the dominance. If energy costs rise, that is anathema to the business model. All of the AI margins collapse. They're already running on huge debt loads. Cloud costs are going to surge. Energy infrastructure build-outs are going to surge. Asset prices are definitely going to suffer. So energy has to do one thing. It has to stay abundant, it has to stay reliable, and it has to stay economical. In other words, cheap. And if that means foreign intervention, history shows elites never hesitate to protect that pipeline, for want of a better phrase. The bankers, the inflation, and the Federal Reserve, they're all intertwined in one massive incentive. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. There's more than one of them, but one of the main ones is, with one thing comes another. With $34 trillion in debt comes a few things. It comes rising interest costs. It comes an increasing debt burden. It becomes a fragility to the financial plumbing. And these are things that central bankers and politicians cannot countenance at all. Now, the Fed can't just fight inflation purely through rates. I mean, of course it would love to, but high rates break banks, high rates crash markets, and high rates threaten the system. So inflation has to be handled in a different way entirely, through things like supply control, or through energy stabilization, or through other mechanisms that don't end up actually destroying the economy, because we still need to have access to those commodities. So this is how inflation is managed without crashing our assets and our portfolios. They're managed quietly, surreptitiously, externally, away from the prying eyes of the masses, and most importantly, strategically. This isn't new though. This is empire behavior the world over, through time immemorial. Rome managed to secure grain routes. Britain secured coal and shipping lanes. America has always secured oil. Empires don't collapse because they act this way. They collapse when they can't act that way anymore. So Venezuela isn't about punishment. It's about serviceability. It's about the status quo. It's about maintenance, maintaining low inflation, maintaining asset stability, maintaining technological dominance in this AI race against China. And the political class won't say this part out loud because, yeah, it sounds ugly, right? It sounds territorial. It sounds imperialistic. It sounds the opposite of what we were promised in terms of protectionism and isolationism. It sounds really ugly. But there's a reason why markets aren't going to panic, irrespective of the panic-worthy events that are going on. Like, markets won't panic because the markets understand what the actual trade is. Instability there means stability over here. Cheaper inputs, lower CPI, more room for liquidity, more room for stimulus, more runway for AI, more runway for stocks, more runway for debt. Markets don't ever moralize. Markets just price out the outcomes, and that's what we actually want them to do. Efficient pricing mechanism. So what does this mean for you? And I mean, this isn't financial advice because I could be wrong. History always has surprises. But if this is the strategy and it fits too cleanly to ignore, then understand a few things. Inflation is being managed, not solved. Resource control matters more than wages in this scenario. AI needs more energy than people need relief. And markets are always protected, and households will always be expected to absorb the adjustment and to do their bit without the government ever asking them to do it, especially not when the voting cycle comes back in. That doesn't mean panic. It means clarity. So we must go through this with humility, but not naivety. Because there's one thing for sure, I might be missing some pieces. You might disagree. So tell me, does this explanation actually fit the timing? What alternatives make more sense? I'm Justin. I talk money, markets, and the system underneath all of them. The liquidity, the plumbing. If this helped you connect the dots where the headlines didn't, subscribe and join the conversation. Because once you actually understand how inflation is really managed, then a lot of the so-called foreign policy begins to make a lot more sense.